Hey, how's it going everyone? So as promised, I'm posting another project for my HTML, 30 HTML, CSS and JavaScript course. So it's basically a project only because, as I said the last time in my last video, I have lost the two videos that I prepared for the 2 weeks that I'm gone. So please enjoy this video. So next week is going to be as usual, new projects, new videos, new stuff. If you missed my previous video, it's also a project, also from the course. Please check it out if you wish. I'm also going to leave the course in the description below. So feel free to check it out if you wish so. Okay, so with this being said, check out the project, have fun, and see you next week where I'm going to post a new project. Hey, what is going on everyone, and welcome to another JavaScript project. In this project, we're going to create a e-commerce countdown timer. So basically, this is going to count down from a specific date to a end date, and when the countdown runs its time, then when the countdown runs its time, then instead of the countdown, something else will appear. For example, countdown ended. Okay, so for this, we're going to use a couple of things in JavaScript. We're going to use from the DOM getElement by ID, variables, let and const, arrow functions, set interval, clear interval, map objects, modify elements by inner HTML, and date objects. So let's also take a look at the finished project. Oh yeah, and we're also going to use Bootstrap. For Bootstrap, we're going to use for this navigation right here, because if I make this, let's make this smaller. Let's go to a phone format. Snap this to the right. So when we're in a phone format or a tablet format or whatever format that is smaller than a desktop format, let's also zoom in a bit. Let's say here, so let me shrink this together. You can see that the navigation changes, okay? So when we're in the desktop format, we have the entire navigation, and when we're in the under a 900, let's see, under a 1020 pixel format, then the navigation is going to change. Now this timer right here, this is what we're going to concentrate on. When this runs out, let me quickly change it to, let's say that it ended. So let's say we're going to go back in time. Let's change the date here. So when the timer ended, when the timer ends, it's going to prompt us with offer expired. Okay, so as long as the timer is running, we are going to have the exact date or the exact countdown time from days to hours to minutes and to seconds until the countdown ends. Okay, so this is basically a simple thing that you see on each side when they have offers. And you can click on the buy now button and something will happen, and search and so on and so on. Okay, so let's jump into the project. Okay everyone, so let's get started with the UI. So I just created the empty folder within Visual Studio Code, and to the right side we have our finished project. So let's get started by creating our index.html. Shift, exclamation mark, get the boilerplate. Let's go to Bootstrap. Okay, so let's go to bootstrap.com. Let's get started by copying first of all the link. So this is just a CSS link. Let's paste it in above our header. And now let's go to components. Let's go to docs. From here we're going to go to components, and from here we're going to go down to nav bars. Not navs and tabs, but nav bars. Okay, now we're going to go down. I believe it's actually the very first one. Let me make this a bit larger. Yeah, that's the first one. So just copy all of this. You can either select everything or click on this copy sign. Okay, let's go. Let me make this smaller again. Let's go into our body tag. Oh yeah, and above our title I also want to link up our CSS, so I don't wonder why our CSS is not working later on. So style.css. Style. Okay, within our body I'm going to copy in the navigation. I'm going to leave it up there. And right after nav, after the last nav tag, I'm going to go down and create a header tag. Header. Now within our header tag, we're going to create a div with a class of offer container. So offer -container And within here, we're going to create an h2, which is going to have the class of offer title. And we're going to type in within here, winter is over, come on summer. So there's our sales pitch. Okay. What am I typing in? On summer. Woohoo! Summer is coming. And exclamation mark. Because we're happy that summer is coming. Now, next up, we're going to create a paragraph tag, and this is going to have a class of offer and description. Within our paragraph tag, we're going to type in everything must go, starting from as low as $9.99. 9.99. Okay, that's our paragraph tag. Let me scroll down a bit. We're going to create a button tag. And this button tag is also going to have the class of btn. Now this is a bootstrap class. Then another class of btn-danger. And within here, we're going to type in buy now. So this is going to be the call to action. Now after a button and also after a container, so offer container, we're going to create another container. This will be the countdown container. So this is going to be again in a generic div, which we're going to have a class of countdown -container. And within here, I'm going to have an A6, and within the A6, I'm just going to copy in the text because it's pretty lame to see me just type in text. This is not why you are here, to see me type in text. Okay, now next up, I'm going to just create a short paragraph tag, and this is going to have the ID of offer. And that's basically it for our HTML. Now, last thing, after our header, we're going to include our script tag of, let's say, main.js. Boom, that's it. Now let's create our CSS file. And let's just open it up. What am I doing? Didn't see anything until now. So let's open it up. There's everything. Woo! There's a bootstrap class. There's a navigation. And hey, if you want to make this work, you could go to Bootstrap and also copy in, boom, here, and also copy in JavaScript. So this link right here, copy it in, paste it, let's paste it in up here, right after CSS, and now theoretically this should work. Okay, so this is also working right now, our navigation. Okay, so we're done with our HTML. Next up, let's create our CSS file. So style.css. Let me close this up. It seems I didn't save something here. Okay. So first things first, I'm going to reset all of the margin and all of the padding. So let's say start general reset, margin 0 and padding 0. So I don't want to have any extra margins and padding which the browser would, like Chrome or Firefox or Internet Explorer. Don't use that. Don't use Internet Explorer. They would just automatically insert a bit of a margin. Okay, so let's go with, let's take our header, first things first. Now I'm going to assign it a height of 94 viewport heights. 94 viewport heights, because the rest of this is going to be our navigation. Now I'm just going to give it a color of, let's give it a background color of red, so you see what I'm doing. So there's our header. Now I'm going to include an image, so I can download this image. Let's create first of all a folder and to contain the image, and within here I'm going to insert our lady, which you saw in our finished project. There you are, pretty lady. Okay, now let's grab on to background again, and this time we're going to use URL, and we're going to go to our image, URL. Let's go to image, so / image and woman.js, and let's set it as center, cover, and no repeat. Okay, there's a lady. Hello. Okay, now just position this relative because I want to position something absolute later on with, header container, actually the timer up here. Okay, so navigation is still working. This is pushing down. And here's our lady, here's our background color. Now let's go to the offer container. So dot, let's select the class of offer. Container. Let's go within here. Now first of all, let's limit it. So let's give it a width of 300 pixels. Then a background color of white. So hash FFF, hexadecimal color. Now let's just give it a bit of a padding of top and bottom 1 rem and left and right 0.5 rem. Let's hit save. We can also see something. There we go. So we're basically styling only the offer right now. Now let's give it a box shadow. So in order to pop it out a bit of, let's say 1 pixel, 2 pixels, 5 pixels, 1 pixel, and RGBA color of a dark color. So 0, 0, 0, and 0.7. Let's see 0.7. Okay, there's our offer. Let's also trim down the borders. Let's give it a border radius, 3 pixels. And now let's position it. So for the position, we're going to use position absolute. And don't forget, we positioned our header here relative. So we can position this absolute within our header. So within its own containers, let's say top, 10 viewport heights. And to the right, we're going to push it with 10 viewport widths. This is going to go, now it's over our lady right here, but normally this is the web page that we would see. So this is actually where it's positioned. So sorry lady, we're going to hide you for now, but let's just take care of this button right now. So let's select the btn class because we gave that button a class of btn. Let's say the background color when first of all, so background color, let's say pink, but only when we hover over it. So let's give it a hover state. Okay, there we go. So when we hover, our button is going to turn pink. Now for the countdown timer. So let's select our class of countdown hyphen timer, actually container, sorry about that. So countdown container. And let's first of all give it a text shadow. So text shadow of 1 pixel, 2 pixels, in an RGBA of grayish color. Let's go with this, but well, let's leave it this way. But let's change it to gray, so somewhere up here. Let's see how this looks. Much better. Okay, let's also increase the font size to 2 rem. And now let's also align the text to the center. So text align center. Now let's take care of our ID of offer. And for this, we're going to change the background color to a white color. Then we're going to change the width to 100% of its container. We're going to increase the font weight to 600. And we're also going to add a animation of, let's say, we first of all need to create it. So let's go down here. Let's say add keyframes, and let's call this fade. Now this is going to go from a opacity, I just typed in 4, so from 0.3 to, let's go outside, to a opacity of 1. opacity, and 1. I'm going to change this to from. There we go. Now let's take this animation with the name of fade. Let's give it a duration of 1 second. Let's set ease in out, and let's tell it to be infinite. In order to get rid of this, let's say we're going to give it a media query when we are at maximum width of 400 pixels, max width, let's say 401 pixel. Then the class of offer container is going to be displayed as none. We don't need it actually. So if I would go to something like this, then it's going to disappear. All right, now for the offer, let me just check something. The ID of offer. Okay, now we need to take care of our display right here. So in order for our offer to be displayed, we need to go to JavaScript now. So let's create a JavaScript file. So file, let's call this, we called it main.js. Main.js, let's go into the file. And let's now grab onto a couple of things. Now, first things first, we need to set the date. And for this, we're going to use the getDate method, which returns a number in milliseconds. So let's create a const with countDownDate. And we're going to assign it to a new date object. Now, within this date object, we could actually insert the date. So let's say February. Now, remember, within here, you're going to always set tomorrow's date. So let's say for me, it's now February the 27th. So I'm going to go with 28. So this would be tomorrow's date. And then 2021. And if you want, you could also set an hour. So let's say 7 o'clock, tomorrow at 7, tomorrow at noon. Let's set it to tomorrow 12 o'clock, 00 and 00 milliseconds. So tomorrow at noon, this offer will expire. And also we need to also use the get time method on this object. Okay, now let's go up down here, and now we're going to create a update countdown, which will update each time is going to pass 1 second. So let's create a const, let's call it time, and we're going to set this to a set interval. As you know, the set interval function will repeat itself at each interval we set it to. So let's go with set interval, not timeout, interval, and this is going to use a callback function. So I'm going to use within here a arrow function, and at the end of this we're going to set it to 1000 milliseconds. So this would be 1 second. It's going to repeat itself. This function is going to repeat itself each second. Okay, now within the function, let's first of all create a const, which will set it to now. So the time that is actually now. And for this, we're going to use the new date. And for this, we're going to use the getTime method again. And this is actually going to get me today's date. So if I console log here now, and let's also open up the console here, F12. So each time I save, we'll see it will reset itself each and every second. Okay, this, as you can see, the last thing that you see here are the seconds, and after that come the milliseconds. Okay, so this is counting down. Let's comment this one out so you know this works. Now we need to find the distance between now and the countdown date. So for this, we're going to create a const. We're going to call it distance. And we're going to, or you could call it difference. No, actually it's distance, because the distance is going to be smaller and smaller and smaller with each second. So we need to subtract from our countdown date the now. So minus now. Okay. Next up, we need to calculate the time for days, hours, minutes, and seconds. So we're going to create for each of them a variable. So let's start with let days we're going to assign this to a math method. So math object, and from the math object, we're going to use .floor. We're going to have this rounded down. And within here, we're going to say distance divided by, and the first one is a bit longer. Actually, the second one is the longest. So the days. The days will be milliseconds times seconds times minutes times hours. So milliseconds. So the first one is going to be milliseconds. So 1000 milliseconds times. Next should be the seconds. So 1 minute has 60 seconds. Then times 60 minutes in an hour. And then times 24 hours in a day. Okay, so this is going to be our days. Next up, we're going to create a variable for the hours. So let hours, and I'm using let here because they're constantly going to change. So again, we're going to use math, a math object, .floor, and within here, this time we're going to take days, but in percentages. So distance, percentage, our days again, which was 10,000, 1000 milliseconds times 60 minutes and times 60 seconds, then times 60 minutes, and then times 24 hours in a day. And we will divide this. So after this parenthesis, we're going to divide this by milliseconds, seconds, and hours in order to get rid of everything and only have the hours. So we're going to go here, parenthesis again. We're going to tell it times 1000 milliseconds, then 60 seconds, and then 60 minutes. Okay, so we got this part set up. The last one is the hours. So the next one is the minutes. So I'm going to copy this and replace this with minutes. And from here, I'm going to delete the 24 hours and the 60 minutes. Okay, now all we need to do now is create a variable for the seconds. And the seconds will not have hours and they will not have minutes. And that's basically it. Okay, so next up, I'm missing something here. Put down here, syntax after, pom, pom, pom. We don't need you. This, oh, I still need here parentheses. Okay, next up, for our output. Now for our output, we're going to use that offer ID that we created. So let's say let offer. I'm going to go to the document. We can also use cons for this. Let's just use let get element by ID, or you could use query selector. I'm going to grab onto the ID of offer. Now this offers.inner HTML is going to be the days plus, let's say we're going to use here D, a string of D, then hours, a variable of hours, plus another string of H, then plus again, minutes, a string of M for the minutes, then the seconds, and a string of S and space, and that's it. Okay, now you can always see this is displaying right here. Don't need the console. Okay, so there's our alert. We have 0 days, 19 hours, and 7 minutes till this runs, till this ends. Now let's say we would change this to 2022, and well, we will have 365 days and so far and so on, so over a year. Okay, so let's change this back to 1. Now what if the offer expires? So what if this ends? Everything that has a beginning needs to have an end. So let's say if the distance is less than 0, So remember, the distance is actually what is displayed there. Then we're going to use clear interval, and clear interval is going to actually reset the set interval. So clear interval is going to clear the time, because we called our function clear time, which is set to the set interval. And then we're going to go to the document, grab onto our offer. So document get element by ID. We're going to grab onto the ID of offer. I'm going to set its inner HTML now to a string of offer expired. Okay, so if I would now change this to February 27th, which is actually today, we'll get offer expired. Okay, so the offer has run its course and it expired. Okay, so that's basically it for this project. Hope you enjoyed it. This was a really simple project, but you will use this really often in your life. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a lot, and catch you next time. Bye bye.